हेलो दोस्तों, स्वागत है आप सभी का हमारे चैनल इग्नो सेंटर पर। तो दोस्तों, हमने आपको प्रीवियस पार्ट 2 का जो वीडियो था उस पर क्वेश्चन नंबर 2 और क्वेश्चन नंबर 3 MEG01 ब्रिटिश ड्रामा से करके दिखाया था। और आज जो हम क्वेश्चन नंबर डील करेंगे वो आपका क्वेश्चन नंबर 4 रहेगा। और अगर आप हमारे चैनल के साथ नए जुड़े हैं तो चैनल को सब्सक्राइब, लाइक और शेयर ज़रूर कर दीजिएगा। और आपका अगर कोई क्वेश्चन है इग्नो से रिलेटेड और ये क्वेश्चंस आंसर से रिलेटेड, तो आप कमेंट में कमेंट कर सकते हैं अगर कोई क्यूरी हुआ तो दोस्तों, हम होप करते हैं आपने थोड़ा बहुत कुछ अपने हिसाब से भी पढ़ा होगा और उसी हिसाब से आप आंसर के लिए हमें कमेंट कर रहे हैं। उसी आशा से हम आपको कमेंट का रिप्लाई करेंगे। तो दोस्तों, चलते हैं आज की हमारी क्वेश्चंस की तरफ। तो आपका जो क्वेश्चन रहेगा वो रहेगा, कमेंट ऑन द अपोजिशन ऑफ आर्ट एंड लाइफ एंड यूथ एंड ओल्ड एज इन सेलिंग टू बाइजेंटियम। और इसका जो आंसर रहेगा वो रहेगा आपका, दिस ओड डील्स विद द थीम ऑफ आर्ट, लाइफ एंड डेथ, येट here expresses his preference for the world of art over high. Yeats was attracted to Byzantium because it was mathematically convenient to him. This is because the high point of Byzantium art came almost dead center in the 2000 years cycle which defined the beginning and end of modern times. Another reason was that the brilliant integrate art of Byzantium had great appeal for him, because in early Byzantium religious, aesthetic and practical life were one. The artist was almost impersonal, almost without the consciousness of individual design. The subject matter represent the vision of a whole people. Yet in this poem wishes to sail to such a world. In this poem there are two major divisions which divide the poem precisely in half. The first two stanzas present art as inanimate and the second two as eminent. Accordingly, in the first half of the poem, the images are stated as passive objects. They are twice called monument. They are merely objects of contemplation. They may be neglected or studied, visited or not visited. On the other hand, in the second two stanza, they are treated as God. One can play to this God for life or death. They are capable of motion from sphere to sphere as instructors of the soul. They are like sages possessed of wisdom. In the two major divisions, there are further divisions. The first stanza presents a rejection of passion. The second stanza is an acceptance of intellection. Third stanza presents a rejection of the corruptible embodiment as art has a soul. The fourth stanza is an acceptance of the incompatible negative and affirmative, thus alternate. Passion gives place to intellection and corruption to permanence. The first line of stanza presents imminently in its most simple statement the condition from which the whole structure of the poem originates. That is no country for old men. Next five lines of the stanza indicate what it is from which they are executed. The old man can no longer participate in the sensual delight of the young. But the last two lines of the stanza tells that the young are deprived of intellection, just as the old are deprived of sensual delights. The use of the word that shows that the separation of the old from the country of the young is already completed. At first sight, the human lovers in one another's arms have, like the birds at the song, apparently a romantic and sentimental character, but the use of the face those dying generation for birds indicates their transience. The faces, the salmon falls, the mackerel crowded seas imply that all the human lover, the birds, the fish do not copulate and spawn, and this is the whole significance of their existence. The country of the young is thus entirely given over to sensuality. They are immersed in things, moral and moral and animal. They comment whatever is begotten, born, and dies. Their commendation, like their joys, lasts but a summer or mating season. The last two lines of the stanza preclude all possibilities of a return to such a country. The young are caught in the sensual music. They neglected monuments of unaging intellect. They are passive and incapable of fraud action. The second stanza shows that old age is no solution. To be old is to be in a state of misery. An aged man is but a partridge things, a treated coat upon a stick. The old age alone is worse than youth, but of the old age is accompanied by development of the soul, then every step in the decay of the body, every tatter in its mortal dresses is a cause for further increase of joy. This is possibly this is possible only if the soul can rejoice in monument of its own significance. The old must seek Byzantium by breaking utterly with the country of the young. Passion must be rejected for freedom of the soul. The sensual music of the first stanza must yield to soul music. This soul's music is to be studied in the singing school of man's greatest creative achievement in religion and though and especially art. So friend, till here your question number 4 answer was also finished, and now we begin with our next question, which is question number 5, and the question was comment on the theme of death and suicide in the poetry of Sylvia Plath. And the answer for this question is the poetry of the 50s in England came as a reaction to the decades of Pound and Eliot and the excesses of Dalian Thomas. This reaction against the established intellectual academic poetry took another form in the USA, and from their travel to England with Sylvia Plath, the poet involved in this reactionary movement came to be called the confessional poets. Heading the group were Robert Lowell and Theodore Roethke. Younger poets like Sylvia Plath and Annie Sexton, who studied with Lowell, learned to write in the same anti-intellectual, suggestive style. So did John Berryman. Together, these poets initiated a new trend in poetry: glorify the personal and the private, expressing their innermost secret aloud for all to hear. When Sylvia Plath married to English poet Ted Hughes and chose to make her home in the United Kingdom, the confessional movement no longer remained confined to the American boundaries. Around mid-century in the USA, a lot of changes were imperceptibly taken place. There was no single sudden radical change. The changes that were gradually working their way into the very vitals of literature were slow but steady. The beginning of the change may be discerned in the work of poets like Robert Lowell, Allen Ginsberg, and Theodore Roethke. Eliot's theory of impersonality no longer seemed to be the divine word poets were required to follow. It fell into its proper place and came to be regarded as just as a theory and no more. From the impersonal mode there came a shift toward the personal mode. From the outer wasteland to the wasteland within, from global theme relating to Jerusalem, Athens, Vienna, London, to themes related to the heart and soul of the poet. This year, 1959, may be regarded as a watershed in the history of literature, for it was in this year that two important events took place, which shaped the nature of poetry to be written subsequently. The first of these events was the publication of Life Studies by Robert Lowell, which heralded a new kind of poetry, making a significant departure from the complex symbolism and the formal language and style of T.S. Eliot, focusing attention on his own self. Lowell chose to look inwards rather than outward. Consequently, his work moved away from the classical stance, becoming more personal, more private. Lowell became an important influence on the poets of the 60s, bringing about an intense breakthrough into very serious, very personal, emotional experience, which had until then been partly taboo. As Sylvia Plath saw it, Sylvia Plath and Annie Sexton came under his direct influence when they attended Lowell poetry classes in Boston. They look upon Lowell as a mentor. The second important event that took place in 1959 relates to Allen Ginsenberg, a poet very different from Lowell, who also underestimated the established poetic norms of the time, but in his own manner. A poetry reading by him, Grigori Corso and Peter Orlovsky at Columbia University became a controversial public affair, emblematic of a whole era, as Maurice Dickinson put it. With his reading of Howell Ginsenberg changed the very concept of poetry. Hitherto, if poetry was treated as a literary construct, with Ginsenberg, it came to be regarded as a performance, a ritualistic gesture accompanied by music and dance. Disregarding conventional form and themes, Ginsenberg imparted to poetry a new sense of freedom and spiritual intensity, taking it out of stuffy classrooms on to the open stage. The work of Eliot and Pound required a vast body of critical annotation and interpretation to be comprehended fully. Besides, it had emerged as an answer to the needs of a particular hour in history. The second decades of the 20th century, when as a result of global war, civilization seemed to be breaking apart. By the late 50s, the situation had changed. So friends, till here, yeah, question number 5 is also finished and we completed our MEG 01 course. So friend, hope you all like the video, and if you like the video, please don't forget to like and give a thumbs to our video and make subscribe to our channel so that you never missed an update regarding your MEG or IGNO courses. So friends, lastly I want to say you thank you.